Welcome, Les, Kevin, more tech from UTEC IT. And Les, I think we're in for a good one today. I'm excited. And it's like buying a lottery ticket because we come in this morning to record this and we see Johnny. Johnny says, Johnny, bazooka, Johnny.
Bazooka.
Yes.
That I showered today, I brushed my teeth, and I'm ready to have a great day. So then we see our guest today, right? And he says, we compliment on his outfit, and he says, I wear this once a week, and I pick the day that I'm going to have fun, and I wear this. So we got two fun guys in with us, and we'll try to not butcher this show at this point since we got good guys. Yeah, well. And with that, Chuck, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much. It's great to be here. This is really fantastic. I love this location, by the way. This is really elegant and a wonderful place to record.
Les and I spent a lot of time thinking up this concept. We're glad we could pull it off.
Well done. Well done.
Just don't tell Rob when we see him on the way out.
Exactly.
All right?
Yeah. Yeah, we love that the concept here. The speakeasy. Podcast recording, and of course bourbon.
Perfect.
So that's awesome. Hey, go ahead, Kev.
I think I first came across you, Chuck, and we were at a A2Y chamber event, Ann Arbor chamber event down at the Morris Lawrence building. And I see these guys come walking at the Christmas party and they just start singing.
Oh my gosh, how about that? That's great.
How is that, going back a few years, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So, and it was, what was it, 3 men and a tenor?
3 men and a tenor, yep.
Okay.
So that section of my life, I mean, it's sort of a long span. It's 30 years that the four of us have been together. We got together at Michigan State.
Really?
All members of the men's glee club.
Mm-hmm.
And literally, we got together to fill up time in a concert. The glee club director walked in one day and he said, "Gentlemen, we have a problem. In 2 weeks, we have a concert. It's sold out in Grayling, Michigan at the Grayling Holodome. And it's us and the jazz band, and the jazz band is not going to be there."
Oh, boy.
They called me this morning. They got a great offer to do an important engagement in Chicago, and I gave them my blessing. I said, "I think that's a good idea. You should go do that." So it leaves us holding the bag. We've got to fill up about 40 minutes of music. We can sing about 15 minutes from last semester that most of you know. The Discords, which was a small ensemble, can sing another 10 minutes. So we need a little bit more.
Yeah. If
you can sing a solo or a duet or juggle or whatever, come audition for me. If you're not awful, you're in.
Yeah.
And so
setting the bar high.
Setting the bar really high. So the four of us had, a couple of us had actually talked about getting a group together to go and sing at parties and stuff like that. And we wanted to do this to begin with. And this was just a great opportunity for that to happen. So the two guys that were the instigators of that, Paul and Glenn, they beelined it for me because I was gregarious and outgoing and never afraid
bashful.
To talk with, never afraid to talk with people. And they said, "Chuck, do you want to sing in this group?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, let's do it." We asked this other guy who was taller than both Paul and myself. Paul, by the way, to give a visual, is 6'4".
Yeah.
I'm 6'3". Yeah. Glenn is 5 feet tall. So it's we started thinking maybe if we got another tall guy, we'd be three big guys and a little guy.
Yeah.
And it would be funny, at least.
A title for the band.
Even if we don't sing well together.
Yeah.
It would be funny looking. And so that was the way the group started. So we asked this tall guy, "Hey, would you like to sing? We'd have you sing bass." And the guy said, "That sounds stupid." And so he said no. And he was a music major, and he's got a great job at Burger King. And we asked this other guy, Mark Stiles, who's the fourth member of the group, "Hey, would you do this?" And he was also the vice president of the Glee Club. And he's like, "Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's cool. Let's do it." So we got together and we learned a song really quick, and we auditioned for the Glee Club director. And he said, "Okay, you guys are in. What are you called?" And the movie 3 Men and a Baby was just kind of just in the history. And we said, we're thinking 3 men and a tenor.
Yeah.
And, he said, well, okay, let's go. We actually came up with 3 men and Glenn first because Glenn is a little guy. But then, we started doing all these parties and events and ice cream socials. And in the fall, we started doing school performances, and we started doing festivals and public performances in performing arts venues and things like that. It just kind of snowballed.
Right.
And within a couple of years, we were full-time touring as a musical group, and everybody quit their jobs, and we just toured for 14 years, actually.
And I'm sorry, I just got to ask. So this is what's historically, or what you call a barbershop quartet?
Well,
no?
it's sort of in the same format. A barbershop quartet
just don't do haircuts.
Is a yeah, exactly. We don't do the haircuts. That's extra. We're a barbershop quartet is a vocal group.
Yeah,
we're a vocal group. We're not in that milieu. We're not in that style. But
is it a cappella?
Yeah, mostly. Yeah. So as the show grew and we started working with different producers, one producer actually who was a former singer from the band The Nylons. I don't know if you remember The Nylons. Mm-hmm. Had a couple big hits in the 80s. Kiss 'Em Goodbye. And
I missed him.
You missed him. No big deal. But he said, we should get some rhythm tracks because the audience is terrible at staying on the beat. And if we've got something that indicates it'll keep everybody together at least. And so that's what we started doing. And then we started getting some other
Sounds to me like
tracks.
You invented rap. Is this what
I don't know about that. There is rap in our history.
Okay, all right.
For those who are interested in the deep dive, you can look up the Beverly Hillbillies rap on, I'm sure it's on YouTube. I think maybe it's on iTunes as well.
Okay.
It's pretty funny.
Well, we didn't drag you in here to talk about that, but it is interesting.
Though.
And going back to what I admired you, I'd seen you around many chamber events and in the community, is that you were a connector, and you were always looking to connect with people and bring people together, and
absolutely,
and kind of make things happen for the good of the community and good for businesses down there. And I always respected that. Plus, you're a fun guy to talk to, right? Getting around that. So a lot of people can see there's enthusiasm here. You can definitely hear it, right? So tell us, you're now with the Sun-Times newspaper. Tell us how that came about.
Well, about 6 years ago, I was the marketing and development director for the Encore Theater in Dexter. Mm-hmm. And in that job, I had invited a whole bunch of media people to come to the theater to see a show at no cost, and we threw a little reception afterwards. And the then owner of the paper and editor of the paper both came to the show, and they loved the show. And after the show, I, was hanging out with them, having a beer and a snack, and Bob and I were talking. And all of a sudden, Bob Nestor, he's the former owner of the Sun-Times.
Got it. Okay.
He said to me, like right in the middle of what I was saying, I was making a point, and he said, "You should be selling ads for my newspaper."
Really?
And I said, "Thank you. I'm flattered. I'm really happy with what I'm doing here right now, and I'm really committed to the Encore. We want to move it to the next level, and I'm committed to that for the moment. Mm-hmm. But maybe someday." And so Bob and I would bump into each other over the next several years, several times. And every time I'd see him, he'd say, "That offer still stands.
Right.
You should be selling ads for my newspaper. You would kill it."
Yeah.
I started doing this other job that was a direct path out of the Encore. We produced a video project, and my friend Rob Marschke, who owned Cade Advertising, said, "Hey, I'm looking for somebody to really lead the sales team here in Michigan. How would you like to be director of sales for Cade Advertising?" And so I went to work doing that, selling websites and video projects and graphic design and social media management, all of that stuff. And that was going great. And that's how we met. We met through me being at CADE and going to all of these A2Y events. And then with the shutdown of COVID, all of these projects that, were sort of pending, one by one, it's all like, we're just going to put this on hold for the next month, 2 months, 6 months, year. And it's like,
right.
who's buying a video project, to advance their company in the middle of a pandemic? And so
it's like survival mode.
Right, exactly. And so as a really commission only salesperson who was doing fairly well, all of a sudden I was kind of in trouble because the other thing that I was doing was singing in 3 Men and a Tenor, and obviously there were no shows at all. So immediately my 2 careers just came to a grinding halt.
Right. And our offer to sell fax machines east of US 23. that didn't work out too well.
We should have talked just a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
A couple decades, maybe. No, so in the summer of 2020, I had a friend who said, hey, I'm interested in opening this little farm stand at this little red house on Dexter Pinckney Road.
Okay.
And I said, oh, I know the guy who owns that. That's Bob Nestor. Oh. I can introduce you. And so we went out to, Bob and I went out to see this guy at his farm and talk about him opening this little farm stand. And they made a deal, and they said, yeah, that's great. Let's do it. And on the way back, Bob said, let me buy you a beer and a sandwich. and so we stopped in Hell at the Hell Saloon.
Great spot.
And we sat down, and the very first thing I said, I put my foot in my mouth right away. I said, so Bob, how's everything going with the newspaper? And he said, oh God, I don't even want to talk about it.
That bad, huh?
And I said, what? Well, what's going on? And he said, well, we're out of print. We lost 80% of our advertisers. I furloughed all of the salespeople in the spring when the world shut down, and none of them came back to work when I called them back in May. And I think I'm sunk. And I said, oh God, I'm so sorry. I wish there was something I could do to help you. And he said, there is. Go sell some ads for me. And so all of a sudden I thought, well, this is the moment right here. This is the maybe someday. And I said, okay, let's try it. And so a couple weeks in, I had about 15 advertisers pledged to come back to the publication once it was back in print.
Okay.
And Bob said to me, wow, you're doing better than I thought you would. How would you like to run the whole thing and eventually own the paper? And I said, well, that's a little bit different than can you go sell some ads for me?
Right.
Because I'm still kind of thinking I'm going to retain my job as director of sales for CADE. But this is just a slow time, and maybe I'll meet some clients that would benefit from video projects. And that's still a good idea. But all of a sudden this changed things because he's talking about me being the editor and the owner and the publisher of this paper. And I talked with my wife, and I said, I mean, this is a risk. I mean, we don't know the newspaper world. And I, like so many people of my generation, had sort of thought at that moment, I think print is like a dying medium. And we talked it out, and I said, okay, let's go for it.
Wow.
And I thought the worst thing that'll happen is 6 months from now, we will have failed, and hopefully I'm going back to work.
Yeah.
And so 6 months later, we were almost profitable again. And there was a tremendous amount of enthusiasm for the newspaper. And my eyes were truly opened as to the value of hyper-local media and being in a community and sharing the news about that community and having writers that write about Dexter and write about Chelsea and write about Celine specifically. And there's such a need for it because larger news organizations like MLive don't have the bandwidth to go out to Dexter for a story about the ice skating team that went to nationals and the girls that are all Dexter High School students or Dexter High School and Chelsea High School. They don't have the bandwidth to do that. But awesome. That's such an important story to the community. And so,
especially a community like that who takes pride in themselves.
Exactly.
They take pride, and you can see it when you drive through it. Everything's clean.
Right.
It looks like the prototypical small town USA.
So Kevin, you talk about the idea of me being a connector, and I think that's at the core of who I am. I think that's really who I am. I feel like, okay, you and I see eye to eye. Let's get together. Let's bring a couple of friends. I know some people that you might like. You probably know some people that I might like. And so we bring the people together. And so with the newspaper, we bring people together on a much larger scale.
Sure. You bring the community together.
Bring the community together. Yeah, absolutely. And, I know some people don't care about the paper, but we publish online as well. And so it's getting the word out there. And largely, of course, we have to cover hard news. We have to cover things that are bad that happen. But largely, I would say a majority of the stories that are in the paper are celebrating what's happening in the communities.
Well, I think it's important because I live here in Brighton, and we have Livingston Daily is our area paper for Howell, Heartland, Brighton, probably missing a few. But it is so important to look at that, read that, and see what's happening locally with the politicians, with city councils and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
You got to have your news, what projects are coming in the area. But it's recognizing, rewarding young people or old people, guys like us, to do something amazing.
Yeah.
I think I miss that, and it's you want to have that and read
You're
that.
not going to get that on CNN or USA?
No, for sure. And I heard Bob say something very early on when we started working together. He said, there's nothing that beats the feeling of a parent who sees their child being celebrated in the newspaper for doing something good. And I think that's so vital. And every kid should be in the newspaper. Every kid should have that moment where they're celebrated. They're put up, and people look and say, "Oh, great job, Johnny."
Yeah, right.
That's awesome.
It is,
and I think it's just so vital. I think that a lot of our issues societally could be somewhat alleviated by more of that. More people need to be told, "You're doing a good job."
Right.
Yeah, we don't need to find it on TikTok. We need to see it.
Right.
These kids raise money for doing certain things. With the high school groups to support cancer, to take care of a veteran that's down on his luck, stuff like that we need to be rewarded about and
Absolutely.
see. I don't need to see another stupid video of a guy putting a bottle rocket somewhere, shooting it off for the 4th of July.
Blowing up his car.
Yes,
I saw the same one. Yeah. Right.
So Chuck, how did so you got rolled into this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's working out well.
It is. It's working out extremely well.
Yeah.
I get told by people all the time, because I know a lot of people in the community, and so they're not afraid to come up and say, "Hey, I love the newspaper. Thanks so much for bringing it back." First of all, but I get a ton of feedback from people, and we have a little section in the back of the paper from time to time that says, "We need your help," because our newspaper goes out free. It's not a subscription-based paper. It goes out free through the mail to homes in Dexter, Chelsea, and Saline. 16,000 copies total.
So it's literally mailed. So
it is mailed.
You got postage.
I pay a big postage bill every week. I pay a big print bill every week. And the advertisers that are in that paper are the ones that are paying for it.
Yeah.
By and large, we get maybe 3 or 4 letters a week from contributors that say, "Hey, I love the paper. I really value this. I love the crossword." It's amazing how much the crossword puzzle matters to people. I mean, I never knew. I like crossword puzzles, but I do it every week now. I do the crossword puzzle with my wife. We had dinner yesterday, and we did the crossword puzzle while we were sitting there having dinner, and it's, again, a connector moment for us while we're sitting there. But people really value that.
Yeah.
And I've had people say, I canceled my subscription to MLive when they got rid of the crossword puzzle, and I'm so glad to see it back in your paper. And they write us a check for $50 or $100, you know, to help us continue to produce the paper. So
do you have jumble?
I don't think so. I don't know what that is.
This is another word type game.
Yeah.
I always get crossword puzzles. I got stumped right about number 1. You know.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes I could make it to 2, but jumble.
Well, we have word search, Sudoku, and a crossword puzzle.
All right. Forget Sudoku.
Maybe,
but word search.
maybe we'll do the jumble. You know, I'll have to look into that. Thanks for the suggestion.
Yes.
We're looking for a sponsor for all of our puzzles. You know?
Right.
If there's a sponsor in the Ann Arbor area that might be interested in reaching the communities of Dexter, Chelsea, and Saline.
I could think of a podcast that might be looking for.
Absolutely.
We just walk around puzzled. But,
I will say one of my absolute favorite pairings of an advertisement with the location in the newspaper is Dexter Main Street Optometry. They are located right underneath the word search. And it has a pair of glasses, and it says, having trouble finding the words? Maybe it's time to come see us. I think that's great.
I love it.
We sometimes we have.
Thank God you didn't say the local funeral home in the
oh my gosh.
section.
Well, we do have that too.
Well, here's what I'll jump in. I think it's amazing, and I think it's wonderful that you're able to build a model where you can send out a newspaper, and the residents get that, and it's just again, it's a gem of the community, right? You get to have this paper and get to read
Write
it.
that one down. A gem of the community.
I do. I like
You got that, Bazooka? Put that on social media.
Well, no, it's neat to have that, and it's important. And I think the businesses there need to support that because you guys are giving back to community. Now, the challenge, I think, for some papers, besides the funding, right, costs and advertising is biggest, but how do you find writers and how do you find reporters that go out and are able to write?
That's a great question.
You'll learn, Chuck. I don't ask bad ones.
Well, I was fortunate enough to arrive at a time when we already had 3 writers that were very committed. They had kept writing regardless of the fact that the future was uncertain. They just continued to write. And it's largely because they love doing it. They love the writing itself, and they love the community, and they know that it has value. And so Doug Marin, Lonnie Human, Mike Williamson, these 3 guys, they're the core of our writing team that stuck with us through the pandemic. And
that's great.
You know, they all have, you know, writing backgrounds. Mike Williamson, who's our sports writer, has been writing for 26 years. He's been writing sports for the Sun-Times News for 26 years.
Local sports.
Dexter, Chelsea, Saline.
Passion and commitment to
right.
that.
Absolutely. So there's a guy who he loves it. You know, if the paper were to go away, this guy would sit at home, sad and lonely, feeling like, oh, I've lost my purpose. I've lost part of my purpose. And, you know, I adore the guy because he is just so committed to it. He's committed to the kids. He wants to tell their story. He wants to, again, celebrate these athletes that work so hard, tirelessly to achieve incredible things. I mean, we've got some incredible athletes in these schools in Dexter, Chelsea, Saline. We've got, you know, kids who are pole vaulters that are setting state records. They're, you know, literally reaching new heights, right? Amazing, absolutely amazing, and he's dedicated to it. You know, Lonnie he's a lifelong journalist. He, you know, wrote for the Adrian newspaper and has freelanced all around, but he's really the most comfortable covering Dexter and Chelsea. And he lives right in Dexter. He was my next door neighbor. This was so funny. When I lived in Dexter, Lonnie was my next door neighbor, and we never really talked about the newspaper very much. And then I sold my house and I moved out to the lake. And 6 months later, all of a sudden, here we are, Lonnie.
Co-workers.
Pretty funny. And Doug Marin, is really kind of my right-hand man. He's our online editor, and he takes all of these press releases that come in, and he sort of, sorts out the wheat from the chaff, and, delivers them to me to publish in the paper. I mean, I couldn't do it without any one of these guys, for sure. I mean, there's just so much. The workload in putting together a newspaper is immense. I had no idea.
Yeah, I mean, just think about the positioning, the words flowing.
Right.
Phenomenal. And then the spell checking.
Right, exactly.
Well, I think the newspapers, there's always hey, you still miss just holding the paper in your hand, right?
Oh, yeah.
Our kids don't, and they think we're crazy when we talk about that. But I think there's a connection going back to, like, how many guys, we had paper routes. Remember riding your bike?
Sure.
You had to put the paper up there, and if you didn't get it on the porch, the guy would yell at you, and then you had to collect. It was a great way to teach folks about business, right?
Do you know it was
many businesses.
Also for me, it definitely was it's an opportunity for parents to model reading in front of their kids, but it also was kind of an indicator for me. When my dad came home, he picked up the newspaper, and he just didn't talk to my dad until he's looking at the newspaper. It's like, okay, this is dad time, and then the paper comes down, and he thinks about something. It's like, hey, Dad. And that was kind of like, welcome home.
Yeah.
Don't talk to Dad until he's, put the paper down for a second.
So the crew's been with you for a long time.
Yes.
They're committed.
And we have other writers that have come into the fold, and, largely by volunteer means. Andy Nixon is a great new young writer who approached me. And said, hey, I'm interested in writing. Here's what I want to write. I want to write some feature stuff. And he's become a great writer. And I'm just so lucky to have him. I'm looking right now. I need better coverage in the city of Saline. We are a very Dexter-Chelsea-centric paper at the moment. And that's only because that's who works for the newspaper, people from Dexter and Chelsea. And so we need the local component in Saline, somebody who lives there, who feels what's going on, and can say, this is really important to everybody who lives in Saline, and we need to cover this. We're guessing at it right now. We're talking to the Chamber of Commerce director. We're talking to the downtown business community, but we're kind of guessing what's important to Saline.
For a young person, you probably have to indicate to them that's more than 250 words, right?
Right, exactly.
Characters.
Absolutely.
Characters, yeah, characters.
Absolutely.
Hey, well, Chuck, on that thing, in the state of journalism, if you will, because everything just now seems to be soundbite driven. But did the local high schools still have journalism clubs? And
absolutely. And in fact, Dexter and Chelsea, I'm sure Saline does too. I just don't know about Saline's. I know about Dexter because my kids went to Dexter High School. And I know we actually had an article in the paper, the Squall, which is the Dexter High School newspaper, has won, I want to say, 13 or 14 years in a row.
Wow.
This award for excellence in high school journalism. And one of the ideas that we have going future is that we might actually have a page where we publish some of the Squall articles in the newspaper and give young journalists an opportunity to write something that gets a broader audience than just the high school students. And I'm excited about that opportunity.
It's a neat idea.
I think this is great. This is something that we've got to make sure succeeds. What could a listener that's in the area or just somebody just passionate about the newspaper industry, what could they do to help the Times-Sun, whether it's a business or a homeowner?
So many things. So on a business level, of course, advertising is our bread and butter. It's how we survive. It's how I pay the writers. It's how I pay for the print bill. It's how I pay for the postage. It's how I get paid. So advertising for sure is the first thing. Individuals who want to make a contribution can do it online on the website. There is a place where they can write to us, P.O. Box 1, Dexter, Michigan. Send a check. The bigger the better. And we certainly always appreciate that. But also, liking us on Facebook is good. Then you start to see the things that are in the newsfeed from the newspaper. Sign up for the online newsletter. And especially, this definitely pertains mostly to people who live in Dexter, Chelsea, and Saline. I make no, claims about covering Whitmore Lake. We don't.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we don't cover Ann Arbor. We don't cover Jackson. We cover Dexter, Chelsea, and Saline. Every once in a while, there might be a feature article about something happening in Manchester, something happening in Gregory, some little town around us that has something that pertains to our readers. But largely, it's very, very local. And I would say spread the word that you're reading this newspaper, that it matters. Send us a note. Let us know that it matters to you. I think that's really important.
Yeah, wow. It's an awesome call to action.
Well, thank you.
Well, before we have you close us out with song,
Oh. I didn't think about that.
we
Start spreading the news.
we always ask our guests, because we're big bourbon fans here, and our favorite is FK&G bourbon, and we wanted to see what you happen to like. Resist Spirits. Did you try them at the open house?
No.
Okay.
I didn't know anything.
March
about it.
March Madness.
Or March Madness.
Oh, at
yeah,
March Madness. No,
yes.
you know what? I was in and out of that event
Yeah.
because I had another event that I had to go to.
Okay.
And I saw a couple of folks that I really wanted to say hello to. And I did the golf thing in the back room, which
Yeah.
I thought was fantastic.
OptiShot, Kevin
I
Johnson.
love that.
They're killing it.
Right.
That was really fun. And I was gone before I did
Okay.
3/4 of the things that were available.
Well, they were there, and obviously make a great thing. But what's your favorite flavor?
Well, I'll tell you, he's sort of
said
my
yes.
go-to.
Yes.
My go-to is actually Four Roses.
Really?
I love Four Roses just as a typical. If I'm going to have a drink after work, that's probably what it is.
We get that one a lot, and then Angel's Envy is another one we get a lot.
Yeah. I'm happy with Bullet. On the road, we typically, for 3 Men and a Tenor, we have backstage for a show. Typically, they'll provide a bottle of Jack Daniels, and I go, that's fine too.
It helps warm up the vocals.
It does. Absolutely. Not too much. You gotta. There's a delicate balance there.
Yes.
It's the after party with the 3 Men and a Tenor that
my.
you got to watch out for.
My.
And thankfully, we have Golden Limo to drive us home, right?
Right,
Perfect.
right.
Yes, it's Sean Duvall and crew. So, hey, thank you.
Yep.
And
Thank you.
congratulations
Appreciate
on the paper. That's a great story, and keep up the good work there.
Cheers, guys. Thanks very
Cheers.
much.
You got it.
Continued success with the podcast.
Right.